All right, ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project. How the heck are you? We are getting ready to go live. I just have to hit a couple more buttons here. Otherwise, we're going to get some echoes within echoes within echoes. I have Shadowyze, Shawn. This guy is awesome. He is an anthropologist. He reached out to me at Leak Project. He has about a dozen albums. He's also an artist. He's met some really neat people along the way and learned a lot of things. But what's neat about Shawn is he actually travels the world extensively and does research into the pyramids and structures, etc. And his background in anthropology and a degree in anthropology is awesome. So we're going to pick his brain. We've got about 45 minutes. So we're going to cut to the chase. Let's rock and roll. It's an honor to have you on the show here with us, Shadowyze. How the heck are you?
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'm excited about being able to talk about, my experiences. So where do you want to start it?
I would like to start with who you are and, tell our audience the cliff notes about your background, your degree, what you told me off the air as well. And then we'll get into some of the experiences that you've had.
Okay. I go by Shawn I'm also known as Shadowyze. And I had, a career back in the late 90s or the early 2000s, traveling to many Native American reservations, doing concerts, and also getting to be a part of speaking events. I put out many songs and albums that have cultural messages to them, that also dealing with Native American history, but also just world history and the trials and tribulations and struggles of indigenous peoples around the world, and just people in general. And also a lot of the topics that get discussed on the shows, such as corruption and hidden agendas, the mysteries of the earth, and the secrets of different societies around the world. Those kind of things I've kind of thrown in many of my songs to educate people through the medium of hip hop music or rap. So, and I've been able to travel to other countries, not only with in the entertainment industry, but also in anthropology. But first of all, in the entertainment industry, I was fortunate enough to go to the Montreux Jazz Fest in Montreux, Switzerland, which I got to perform there in 2001, and that was major. Sting was there, Alanis Morissette, and it had there was a rock band there, Living Colour, Run DMC was there, and a ton of other artists. But that was an amazing experience. Got to do some other shows like the Lansing, Michigan Great Lakes Folk Fest in Lansing, Michigan, and that was 2005. So the experiences I had with the entertainment industry led me to be able to, when I got booked to do a show, I would also go around and learn as much as I could about the indigenous cultures in the area, or just get to hang out with the local people and absorb some of the stories and some of the local history. And that was a privilege that I was very fortunate to have. And I'm thankful that I was able to do that. And on the other note, as far as going and doing some internships in Peru and Mexico and Belize, I was able to get to be part of some archaeological excavations that educated me a lot more about those cultures, and I was able to go to some of the indigenous communities and learn from them about things that aren't so mainstream. And I really feel that people today in general are not getting a lot of real education, that they're getting spoon-fed just little droplets of truth, and the rest of it seems to be kind of not offered at all. You know, you don't see a lot of real truth that gets out there, especially in like archaeology. I feel that when you see something and you're looking at something and you are able to identify it, or if you can identify it, and then it just gets swept under the rug and not exposed, then that's corruption. And you know, I've seen some of that, you know, to a degree, but I mean, nothing like what's going on with a lot of the skulls and things that they're finding. But I've seen some different levels of cover-ups, you know, subtle stuff. But,
Like what? Give us some examples, if you would, please.
just if you know if you're finding something, you're looking at it, you're gonna document it, and then it just kind of gets put off into a different box or different bags going somewhere else, and maybe the more advanced team members that had more specialty degrees that knew something about it didn't want it going to the location with the other artifacts. You know, that to me is a little strange. You know, when you find something, you say, "Hey, wow, I've never seen anything like that. What is that?" And then the expert comes in and looks at it, and they haul it off somewhere. You know, so
Do you know where they would haul it off to?
I mean, I would think that something like, you know, major, you know, would go to a vault, you know, or some sort of lab where they're going to spend more time on it, and you know, limited amount of people, kind of closed off to the average worker. You know, that's what I would think. You know.
So essentially, like you would find something that would be a new discovery and it would disappear. Your superior would show up and then.
What I'm saying is that, you know, on different internships that I was involved with, subtle things on these trips happen. They weren't like major, where you know black vans pulled up and stuff. They were more subtle in on a much smaller scale, but still you could see that there was a direction where it was going to, you know, and that's kind of like I'm wondering what's what's the agenda here. But you know, doing all this research and seeing these other archaeologists that have found like major stuff. I mean, I've never really found anything super major or anything like, you know, it's on Ancient Aliens or anything. But the fact that it goes on at all, you know, levels, you know, either something minor still gets kind of swept under the rug too if it leads to something major, you know. So I mean, I don't really have a solid answer on what's being done with anything. I don't. All I know is that, you know, I've seen some degrees of things like cover up. But
Let me jump in on that note then, because a lot of the stuff that I've been researching with the ancient Mesopotamian tablets, you know, the Sumerian story, the creation story, the Anunnaki, etc., those are old tablets. Yet, if you read the Sumerians' kings list, it describes almost 500,000 years worth of kingship. Right. And if you read some of these stories about Dumazid, which is the first king or one of the first kings in the Sumerian kings list, he ruled for 36,000 years. He was like the third or fourth. So then you go to school, and most of the stuff they teach you in school is, okay, you know, they're just a couple thousand years ago. That information isn't that old. You know, the pyramids, they were made by slaves. And then you have to figure out the logistics. Where do they get all the resources? These materials and these elements came from all around the world. I mean, they would have to have a supply chain and a transfer chain that would just to get the stuff there.
Right. And then it's like, wasn't it in Blythe, California, those tracks they found that were like hundreds of thousands of years old? They were like some sort of vehicular tracks that were left, and they, I guess, made an imprint in the stone and in the rock. And they've I mean, I guess they dated it about, a few 100,000 years old. So, I mean, and then like, what are they finding? Like hammers and shackles and things that are over 50,000 years old. I mean, it's insane. I mean, that's really covering up the truth when there's all that out there. And there's like footprints and stone and footprints that are, not supposed to exist, that are, not even really talked about in mainstream archaeology.
Well, let's get into, because we don't have a whole lot of time and I want to get as much data as possible. And I'm really glad that you reached out to me. Talk to the audience, if you would, about the experiences that you have had. You've seen orbs. You talked about the black-eyed children as well. What was that like?
Okay, I lived in Belize, Central America, for 7 years. That is a small country. It's below Mexico, and it's to the east of Guatemala and to the north of Honduras. And I lived close to a town capital city of Belmopan. And in 2008, March of 2008, there was a mass sighting of glowing spheres that were like a light orange color. And there was about 10 or 11 or maybe 12 of these spheres. They flew over or south of the capital city of Belmopan, about a mile south or a mile and a half. And these spheres flew against the prevailing winds. They had to be, guided. These weren't candle lanterns, as some people try to say it's candle lanterns or swamp gas, or weather balloons. And I've heard so many people try to argue.
Swamp gas from Uranus is very common.
I hear so many people that don't even do any research and they still say those things. It's weather balloon, swamp gas, it's candle lanterns. Nobody wants the people that answer it like that don't seem to really want to hear something other than humans being on Earth. So, were you about to say something?
Is there a way you could tweak your volume just a little bit, turn it up just a notch?
Okay, is that a little better?
Yeah, that is.
Check. Okay.
Check.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Right on.
Right.
Thank you.
And these glowing orbs, I lived in about 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile south of this town, capital city, Belmopan, and I saw these orbs, and I didn't, I really didn't know what to make of it, other than they looked strange and they didn't look like any conventional aircraft that I was familiar with, and that possibly they were UFOs at the time, and otherworldly vehicles or other dimensional vehicles, and they all seemed to fly together and had a kind of like a contained glow that didn't like illuminate beyond the sphere. So it was really, it was a really interesting night. But the townspeople, taxi drivers, politicians, and some officials for the Ministry of Works, saw that, and there was a guy that I met named Cadet Henderson who took photographs. He worked for the government there and the Ministry of Works, and he took photographs that got documented and went on the front page of the biggest newspaper there, the Mandala. And they had the picture zoomed in where you could see what seemed like a humanoid geometry inside of these glowing spheres that almost looked like the Peruvian skulls, the elongated skulls that tend to, kind of a gray alien look, or maybe even something kind of like the Alien series, the movie series with Sigourney Weaver. It had that type of elongation, but this was just looking at the zoomed in images, and so we kept seeing these spheres on and off for years, and sometimes they would merge together. Sometimes you'd see what you think was a star, and I would look up because there was no light pollution in that area. You're talking about there was just a few houses per every block only, and a lot of jungle. So there wasn't a lot of light poles and houses to give off light pollution. So these spheres would come back in that area a lot. I believe there was ley lines because the Mayan pyramids were all over the place back there. They were doing excavations nearby that area, but the pyramids seemed to be lined up in that area and cut through the country. There was pyramids, and it seemed like it was a common place for these glow balls, a zone to see these glowing orbs to fly over. And some events that I experienced were absolutely unexplainable, disturbing to me, but unexplainable. They were mind blowing. I had this one night. My neighbor across the street, who was actually he was an American, retired from the Air Force. He saw the glowing orbs, and this is many years after these initial ones were photographed in the newspaper. He saw them this night. I didn't see them. Maybe it was around 2012 or 2013, I believe, probably 2013. And the neighbor behind me didn't believe in any type of intelligently guided craft that was not from Earth. And he said he saw candle lanterns the next day. Both of them told me two stories. One was candle lanterns, one was glowing orbs from two different neighbors. And I woke up unusually late, and really late, and I went to bed early. So I ended up sleeping like 14 hours. And I got up, and my dog was on I had a small dog, a Chihuahua, and she was growling at me when I got up to, just to get up and grab coffee. And she wouldn't let me pick her up. And she bit me every time I tried to reach for her. So I knew something was wrong. I didn't feel right. I felt like I felt nauseated. I felt like, maybe I need to eat, but I felt strange. I couldn't really explain to you. I've never felt like that before. And when I walked to turn the lights off and the front porch light off, it blew. It just blew out. And I looked outside, and it was blown out. The light had, a black haze over it. So I did the same for the back porch. It blew out. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And this kept on happening. I went and turned the TV on. TV didn't work. I had a Kawasaki Mule. That was my vehicle for down there, and it wouldn't even start. And I noticed that on the window sills of my house, on the outside, I had chicken feces all over the windowsill. So they were up on the windows. I had chickens that was free roaming hens, and they apparently were scared of something, but they were on the window ledge all around the house. Those feces, and my rooster was missing. And that's usually what woke me up, was a rooster. So a rooster was missing. My dogs weren't there. They ended up coming back, but they usually spend the night in the yard. So it was a lot of weird things, and that was that morning. I was looking, I had these 3 red dots that looked like a triangle, that formed a triangle on my left hand between my thumb and my index finger. And they were a perfect triangle. I mean, exactly the same measurements between each dot. And it looked like a bug bite, but perfect triangular geometry. And it went away a few days later after that. But I don't know what did that. You know, I don't know why it was there. I have no explanation for any of all the electrical anomalies. You know, all I know is it was, you know, a mystery. You know, it happened, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I was out talking to my neighbor, you know, and I had already explained this stuff to him, and it was probably about 5:30 in the evening, and a 13 or 14-year-old kid with a hoodie, gray hoodie, walked by, but there was no one living. I was out way in the jungle in this dirt road. I was the last house. So there's really no reason for people just to go walking down the road, you know, at that time, that far out. And 3 kids that all look exactly the same over a period of about maybe 10 minutes walked by, and they had the same clothes on. And it almost seemed like a time limp, or it seemed like, you know, the black-eyed children, and the faces were very, it was really weird. They all looked over to my neighbor, and I were sitting in this front yard near his house, which is probably like maybe 30 or 40 feet away from the road. When they looked over, it almost looked like they had sunglasses on, you know, like, but the kind that looked like goggles. And that was, to me, the possibility of seeing black-eyed children, because when I went to go look where they went, I got on my bicycle and went down the road, didn't see them anywhere. This was just about maybe 30 seconds to a minute afterwards. And I'm like, you know, I didn't know where they could have gone, because you could see down all these roads for several blocks, unless they went back in, you know, the woods, you know, unless they were doing some mischief back there. But it, to me, you know, I always try to, you know, if there's something that I can't explain, you know, I'm not just going to leave it at that. I'll try to investigate it a little bit and dig into it. So my neighbor thought that was also weird. He's not that the type that he didn't even know about black-eyed children. So anyway, that really disturbed me, because I never saw him again. Usually people that walk down those roads were normal, you know, neighbors going walking a dog, or taking their kids around the neighborhood, and just kind of walking, you know, pretty far back where I live. But those 3 children looked exactly the same. They were all wearing the same clothes, and they had the same turn and body movement when they walked by. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. It's another anomaly, a mystery. It was pretty, you know, unexplainable to me. You know, I don't know.
So it sounds like there was a connection there. Like maybe those orbs that you were seeing, and those energies, and then when you guys saw those kids that you would describe as black-eyed children, it makes me think of maybe some type of holographic projection, possibly with the orbs, or like some type of 4th dimension or something. And this is a question from one of the people that's listening in the live chat. 33 Worldwide asks, do you think that these orbs are from the 4th dimension and travel to the 3rd, and as beings or entities?
I would definitely think there's other dimensional, you know, merging or some sort, something going on, because they didn't look solid. I mean, these orbs look just like they're made of light, and there's, I mean, I don't, you know, they didn't look metallic. They didn't look solid. They looked like somewhat translucent in a way, but they were definitely intelligently guided, for sure, the way they were moving. I mean, I don't know if they're some sort of alien drone, or if it's really an entity is in the craft, or if they project a hologram of themselves in the craft. I don't know.
And so you're not necessarily sure if these spheres and these black-eyed kids actually have a connection.
I would think that it was kind of like that area was my version of maybe Skinwalker Ranch, because it wasn't just a couple of times weird things. There was a time the mountain that was about 300, about 400 feet away from my front door. There's a mountain, and at that mountain, we saw me and my neighbor and my girlfriend at the time saw a like a small orb, but only the size of like a grapefruit. And it was not a uh, lightning bug or an insect, that's only maybe the size of a grape, of a glowing, illuminated sphere. It was like a grapefruit size, and it kind of tumbled off the mountain like a ball, like it was actually hitting stuff, hitting rocks and stumps, and then it kind of levitated, and then it started flying, like it had something guiding it, and then it came down like behind my neighbor's house, and it went in through the trees, like it was going not like through the tree branches, but between rows of trees, and that to me was what people describe as fairies. I don't know if that was an alien type of drone or if that was uh, some sort of I don't know, fairy type of entity. I don't know, but it was not normal. It was very to me. It looked almost like it was guided by. It wasn't an insect for sure. It was like being controlled, almost like to surveil an area. You know?
That's fascinating. And so you've lived all over the world then? I mean, or Belize and most of the time in the US.
Well,
What's
I was born in San Antonio, Texas. I lived in Pensacola, Florida, and Belize. Belize is where I lived for 7 years. So, but
Have you been to San Antonio lately?
I recorded a part of my album over there back in 2003. But
Past
I was there for like a month and a half.
Okay, so since then, the past
Yeah, I
14
actually,
years, this
yeah,
place has grown ridiculous. I mean, this I
yeah,
cannot believe even just the past 3 years how much this place has grown.
yeah. I took my kids to the Alamo back December 2016. We're coming back from Roswell, New Mexico.
You know, it's funny you brought up Skinwalker Ranch. I've been there a couple of times, and I haven't been able to spend enough time there to actually see anything paranormal. But I definitely saw that weird um, camera that's connected, like sensor that's connected to the tree out there. And then they've got several blockades now. They've even added since just a few years ago. But let's talk more about what you do and what you have encountered and experienced, because you certainly have. You've seen some stuff, man. I mean, you've been around and had some crazy encounters, and you write about it in your music, and you express your work via music, which is also incredible.
Well, yeah. I mean, I believe that there's definitely something powerfully going on with maybe other dimensions coming into ours, perhaps. I don't know what entities are doing it. I'm not gonna like say it, Strays, reptilians, or Nordics, but I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I just know what I see, and that's all I could say. That I have the knowledge of seeing it and experiencing an orb, or waking up, and having red dots on my hand. I'm not going to really validate any type of entity in particular because I haven't seen it, but I know there's definitely something going on. There's definitely something that's affected me.
The dots that you said that were on your hand, were they was it like a triangle shape?
It was three dots that if you connected them with lines, it'd be a perfect triangle. I mean, I measured it, and each dot was like exactly the same length. Like a centimeter apart.
That does sound like some type of, they were checking out your DNA. They were doing something, whether or not it was MyLabs or ET based. That sounds like ET to me. Now, You know, I'm a conspiracy theorist in grandma's garage here. I know enough people, though, that have had these encounters and experiences with most likely off-world entities that there's a lot more than what people believe. And it's interesting when people have certain religious paradigms, and if you talk about these ETs, they immediately say, oh, they're demons, they're fallen angels, they're demons, they're fallen angels. I don't think it's that simple.
Right,
and you know
exactly. Yes, I mean, like the multiverse has got to be teeming with life beyond comprehension for humans. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and I mean, we can't just base off the limited amount of information that we have and say this is what is. You know, we really don't know.
So let's talk about your music, and also let's talk about what you did. That movement you kind of backed a while, or kind of started with the Redskins. That was interesting.
Well, yeah, actually, with the Redskins protest song that I did make the USA Today newspaper back in 2013, and that song was basically, trying to show the mainstream and other cultural groups that Native Americans for centuries have gone through a lot of stereotypes. And I mean, if you were to put another color in front of the skins and have it represent a race group, I don't think it would have lasted too long. I don't think that team name would have lasted more than a few minutes. But I'm just I actually, that was probably one of the last national exposures that I got was that article, USA Today. And I did another one. It was in the New York Times when the Native American, when the Grammy Awards actually opened up a Native American division in 2001, and they had my picture in that article. It was about Native Americans get a division in the Grammy Awards, and they put a little picture of me and put Shadowyze experiences with new modern sounds, something like that. But and I've been in a lot of been in Vibe magazine, Chicago Tribune, Miami Herald, and many other countries like Australian Vibe magazine there. But I try to get out something that's going to, most of the time, educate people, even if it's about a cultural issue or stereotype, or maybe what's going on in global corruption, or even as far as UFO awareness and other dimensions, and things to open and expand people's minds and perspectives.
Well, I mean, you've got some really deep lyrics in your work. I mean, and you touch on so many different topics, like the bloodlines of the Illuminati, the 13 bloodlines, the Anunnaki, fallen angels, reptilians, robotic insects, pole shift, UFOs, zombies. I mean, you've got a lot of good stuff. So I would recommend, for those out there that haven't heard of Shadowyze, check out his work. And how do people get your albums and get access to your art?
It's all on cdbaby.com. So CD Baby has most of my music. Also, I will, for maybe a caller that wants it, or you can do it a third call or something. I'll give away this CD here, Shadowyze, and I'll just mail it out if you send me the address to mail it to. And this one has a lot of Texas artists on it, like Baby Bass, Chingo Bling, Juan Gotti. And some of those are pretty big artists, and they've got platinum records. So I'll give that one away. And I have this one, World of Illusions. I did that in 2002. So. But I was actually on that one talking about forest fires and global warming and different regions turning into burnt, dry, desolate areas. like California's got all that going on. Of course, that's probably it's planned out. HARP or maybe with frequency weapons.
You think that's what they did in California?
I mean, I don't know. I just think it looks very strange. Like, I don't know. I mean, I want to. I mean, the way that things are burning up, and like, I even watched your. I think your show was one of the best about that. But just watching the news, how all these things are just spreading over there, and there's no containment of it, and like, wasn't it the temperature was so hot it was like melting, like things that were not supposed to melt at an average fire temperature. That they were like these really intense 2,000 or 3,000, 4,000 degree temperatures, or 5,000, 6,000 degree temperatures that they were getting over there in some areas. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's to me a red flag. I mean, I think there's too many red flags all around. With almost every time you turn on the news, you're seeing all these distractions, and it's. I guess there's a lot bigger issues that are coming down the pipe soon. There's going to be. I guess I would think that all these distractions are keeping us from seeing the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is not going to be. It's going to be something really shocking to the world. I mean, and it could be, I don't know, WW3, fake alien invasion, a real one, or some sort of plague, super soldiers, cyborgs, they're in league with another country. I mean, I don't know.
Also, before we close out, I just want to let you know, Shawn, it's interesting because I've had a few interviews in the past where there was like strange sounds that would come in through the mic. And they've been with people, for example, I did an interview way back with a guy by the name of Daryl Sims. And Daryl Sims calls himself the alien hunter because he literally deals with people that come in that have had implants. He's been abducted multiple times. His family line has been abducted multiple times. He used to work for the CIA. I mean, who knows if he still does, but he basically, the first time I interviewed him, we were getting real deep into the similar topics, and we would, there would be this weird that would go through the mic, and these weird noises and stuff. And there's been a few of those similar sounds that I've been getting speaking with you. So I don't know, maybe something from another dimension, or maybe it's just your mic does sound really muffled, but when you're not even talking, you'll hear this. So I don't know what it was.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've had some really weird things with my phones. Every time I get a new phone, they don't seem to last too long. They start slowly slowing down is what happens, and then I just have to get a new phone. I don't know why. It'll say there's too much storage, and like I'll empty out the SD card, still says too much storage, and I don't know. Sometimes I pick up electronics and they don't work.
Just did it.
Yeah. Sometimes I pick up electronics and I have problems. Occasionally, it's not all the time, but maybe once every other month I'll have an issue for a day or two.
Do you know what your blood type is?
Yeah. Well, it's my blood type now. Yeah, I do. And what is strange is before I went to Belize, it was a different blood type.
Oh, man. I've heard this from people before that have had similar experiences, and all of a sudden they have a different blood type. It's totally bizarre. Totally bizarre.
I don't know why that is, and maybe, that might have something to do with the Mandela effect. I mean, I don't know.
I doubt it. I think it could be, but I'm still not convinced on the information they share with us on the Mandela effect. I'm not 100% sold on it either. I'm still just investigating that, but I would think that
any type of legitimate alien abduction type of experience could be, enough to change a blood type. Could be. I mean, I don't know.
Is it negative? Do you have Rh negative blood?
No.
Okay. Okay. I'll bet you that your mom or like your grandma or somebody really like close family line.
Somebody, I had somebody that did. Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. Well, hey, this has been just an honor to speak with you, Shawn. I wish we could go longer, but I know you're in a hurry and we had to start kind of late. So let's do this again sometime.
Okay, yeah, it sounds good. And feel free to, if you want to play any of the tracks, the zombie track or the 2012 track, you can do that. Anytime you want to use that as background, that's, I'll put a waiver on it, send you an email. That way it doesn't get, documented or, or they don't track it through the publishing companies.
Right on, man. That means a lot to me. Thank you. I mean, I really appreciate the passion that you put out in your work and waking people up, unplugging people from this machine, saving people's lives by shattering these mind control paradigms. That's what we need to do. So real quick, I want to give a huge shout out to Virtual Shield. This is a VPN that I have worked out a deal with you guys for less than $5 a month. You can protect your information from big data spies. They're offering a 30-day free trial. It's called Virtual Shield. It's a VPN that was literally built from the ground up for your privacy, for your protection. Check it out. Click the link. And one more time, real quick, please give your information. So if people want to get your albums, where do they go?
cdbaby.com.
cdbaby.com. All right, everybody. It was an honor. I'll be back on here later tonight. Be excellent to each other. Be excellent to each other, you guys. And remember, you're here for a reason. Be the change you want to see.
All right. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You don't see a lot of real truth that gets out there, especially in like archaeology. I feel that when you see something, and you're looking at something and you are able to identify it, or if you can identify it, and then it just gets swept under the rug and not exposed, then that's corruption. And I've seen some of that, to a degree, but I mean nothing like what's going on with a lot of the skulls and things that they're finding. But I've seen some different levels of cover-ups, subtle stuff. But,
like what? Give us some examples, if you would, please.
Just if you're finding something, you're looking at it, you're gonna document it, and then it just kind of gets put off into a different box or different bags going somewhere else, and maybe the more advanced team members that had more specialty degrees that knew something about it didn't want it going to the location with the other artifacts. That to me is a little strange. When you find something and say, "Hey, wow, I've never seen anything like that. What is that?" And then the expert comes in and looks at it, and they haul it off somewhere. So.
Do you know where they would haul it off to?
I would think that something like in Lansing, Michigan, and that was 2005. So the experiences I had with the entertainment industry led me to be able to, when I got booked to do a show, I would also go around and learn as much as I could about the indigenous cultures in the area, or just get to hang out with the local people and absorb some of the stories and some of the local history. And that was a privilege that I was very fortunate to have. And I'm thankful that I was able to be able to do that. And on the other note, as far as going and doing some internships in Peru and Mexico and Belize, I was able to get to be part of some archaeological excavations that educated me a lot more about those cultures, and I was able to go to some of the indigenous communities and learn from them about things that aren't so mainstream. And I really feel that people today in general are not getting a lot of real education, that they're getting spoon fed just little droplets of truth, and the rest of it seems to be kind of not offered at all. Many songs and albums that have cultural messages to them, that also dealing with Native American history, but also just world history and the trials and tribulations and struggles of indigenous peoples around the world, and just people in general, and also a lot of the topics that get discussed on the shows, such as corruption and hidden agendas, the mysteries of the earth, and the secrets of different societies around the world. Those kind of things I've kind of thrown in many of my songs to educate people through the medium of hip hop music or rap. So, and I've been able to travel to other countries, not only with the in the entertainment industry, but also in anthropology. But first of all, in the entertainment industry, I was fortunate enough to go to the Montreux Jazz Fest in Montreux, Switzerland, which I got to perform there in 2001, and that was major. Sting was there, Alanis Morissette, and it had there was a rock band there, Living Colour, Run DMC was there, and a ton of other artists. But that was an amazing experience. Got to do some other shows like the Lansing, Michigan Great Lakes Folk Fest. My major would go to a vault, or some sort of lab where they're going to spend more time on it, and limited amount of people, kind of closed off to the average worker. That's what I would think.
So essentially, like, you would find something that would be a new discovery and it would disappear. Your superior would show up, and then.
What I'm saying is that, on different internships that I was involved with, subtle things on these trips happened. They weren't like major, where black vans pulled up and stuff. They were more subtle in on a much smaller scale, but still you could see that there was a direction where it was going to, and that's kind of like, I'm wondering what's the agenda here. But doing all this research and seeing these other archaeologists that have found like major stuff. I mean, I've never really found anything super major, or anything like it's on Ancient Aliens or anything. But the fact that it goes on at all levels, either there's something minor still gets kind of swept under the rug too, if it leads to something major, so I mean, I don't really have a solid answer on what. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? We are getting ready to go live. I just have to hit a couple more buttons here, otherwise we're going to get some echoes within echoes within echoes. I have Shadowyze, Shawn. This guy is awesome. He is an anthropologist. He reached out to me at Leak Project. He has about a dozen albums. He's also an artist. He's met some really neat people along the way and learned a lot of things. But what's neat about Shawn is he actually travels the world extensively and does research into the pyramids and structures, etc. And his background in anthropology and a degree in anthropology is awesome. So we're going to pick his brain. We've got about 45 minutes. So we're going to cut to the chase. Let's rock and roll. It's an honor to have you on the show here with us, Shadowyze. How the heck are you?
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me on the show. I'm excited about being able to talk about, my experiences. So where do you want to start it?
I would like to start with who you are and, tell our audience the cliff notes about your background, your degree, what you told me off the air as well. And then we'll get into some of the experiences that you've had.
Okay, I go by Shawn I'm also known as Shadowyze, and I had a career back in the late '90s and the early 2000s, traveling to many Native American reservations, doing concerts, and also getting to be a part of speaking events. I put out